that's not natural, and that's not us, and that's not the way of the future. I feel that people are craving connection, they're craving understanding, and they're craving purpose and meaning. And that's what Six Star is creating and offering business owners moving forward. Hello, I'm your host, Aveline Clarke, and this is the Six Star Business Podcast, where we have conversations with amazing, incredible people all about what it takes to be Six Star, going beyond the status quo, doing things differently, and how they bring purpose, love, and impact into their businesses every day. So in this episode, you have the pleasure of listening to me, your host. It is episode 100, and two of my co-hosts, Remeny Armitage and Koray Serbest, are actually interviewing me. I didn't want to do it, of course. That's not the gig. The gig is supposed to be me being the host, but they did hound me for a while and they said, look, for episode 100, we think that you should be the guest. So after some, backwards and forwards, they won the argument. I let them do it, and this is it. I don't hold anything back. I am an open book as much as possible, and they seem to enjoy themselves and loved the outcome. So I hope you do too. This is episode 100 with me, your host, on the Six Star Business Podcast. Well, here we are. It is another episode 100 of the Six Star Business Podcast. I'm your host. However, tonight I'm actually handing the host mic over to my two trusted co-hosts because they've said to me that it's time that I was on the other side of the table. So reluctantly, I'm handing it over. I'm introducing now the host of this is Remeny Armitage, and her co-host is Koray Serbest.
Thank you, Aveline. It's wonderful to be here and so exciting to be here for the 100th show. This is an amazing milestone. So great to see you and Koray.
It's a special, exciting day today, having you as the ultimate host to be our guest. So looking forward to an exciting conversation, I would say, right, Remeny?
Absolutely. And I think obviously we have to stick to the traditional format of this great podcast. And so we've got a few questions you'll be very familiar with, and then we'll go with the flow as we always do, with Six Star being at the core of it, of course.
Exactly.
So Aveline, where are you in the world and who do you serve?
Well, I live in the far middle of Australia on the far east coast, so bottom end of the Gold Coast, just on the Queensland-New South Wales border. That's where I live. I serve many people, but predominantly I serve purpose-driven business owners. And in one of my main business, because I have a couple, and I guess I'll tell you about them because you asked. Thank you. My core business is called Journey Point. And in that business, I serve purpose-driven business owners, and I help them to stop wasting money on marketing that doesn't work and attract their ideal client, more of their ideal clients. And I do that via a consulting program called the Who Journey program. And it really is about bringing the value back into people and improving everybody's lives. And that's what I'm all about. So that's my Who Journey program with Journey Point. Obviously, I run this podcast, and as part of the Six Star movement, there's a podcast. We do have a community that is growing, and there's also been a book that we've published, and the whole Six Star business is going to be, should we say, expanded in the new year. So 2023 is a very big year for us. And I also run another podcast just because I have nothing else to do with my spare time. And that's called Kintsugi Heroes. And that was launched just last week. It was founded by someone else, and I am the host of that podcast, and it's very enjoyable. Have I answered your questions?
You have indeed. I think it's wonderful, the multitude of interesting things you're doing, and obviously we'll be delving in more. But beyond the work, what do you like doing when you aren't serving your customers and clients?
A few things when I do get the time. I love my garden and my veggie garden. I love growing things. I love making new desserts or meals, plant-based ones, and serving them up to the disdain of my sons sometimes, like, oh, Mum, what is this now? And then when they taste it, oh, actually, this is really good. Yeah, you should make this again. And I like getting out in nature. And I haven't surfed for a while because I've been working on my posture for the last 6 months, but I'm about to go out surfing again. And yeah, I just like doing sports and keeping fit. Yeah.
That sounds wonderful. I'm in the UK and Koray's in Germany, so we don't get to do much surfing, but that sounds great. It'd be really interesting to hear more about your journey and what brought you to where you are today.
It's such an interesting question because I don't know about you, but I didn't leave primary school or even high school thinking one day when I grow up, I'm going to be a podcast host and run a consulting business and I'm going to be, running a community. No, that didn't enter my mind at all. I did the corporate gig, like many of us did when we left university. And looking back, there were key moments through that journey that were really pivotal, I guess, to what I do today. And I was very blessed to work for a company called Australia Post. It was the Australia Postal Corporation when I got pregnant with my daughter, and that was 23 years ago. And I ended up working on a contract for a man who reported to the managing director. So I worked on the floor with the managing director, and I stayed in that role until the day I was due to give birth. And then he said to me, do you think you should take some time off, Av? And as a single parent, of course, and I had nothing else to do and I love my work, I said, maybe you should go home today. When are you due? I'm due today. Maybe you should go home and have a rest. So I rested for 2.5 days, then I gave birth. So, but in that job, the man that I worked for was pivotal. He was very open-minded and innovative in his thinking. And he saw in me talents and abilities that I didn't see in myself. And I ran projects to improve the employee experience. I presented to the board to get things approved. I helped build the first intranet at Australia Post. I created a new onboarding journey and experience and managed creative people to create brochures and booklets and things and manage these projects. And it was all about the people. And I also did things in the human resources space. Moving forward to National Australia Bank, I worked there for a few years. And the first year was a run-of-the-mill kind of working my butt off, managing their salary bonus process for their global entities. But then I moved to a role where it was very suited because it was all about creating a new onboarding experience. So again, it was working in the people area, so people and culture or human resources, whatever you want to call that people department. But I worked across many different departments because the onboarding covered or touched on technology. We've heard of single sign-on. Well, at that point at NAB's history, some people had 6 different logins to get into their computer and all their apps. So ensuring that single sign-on was a project that was underway was pretty important. That was under my remit. And then there was other things around the employee's experience because NAB, what they said to me, they said, we actually have a problem. 25% of our new employees are leaving in every 18 after being with us for 18 months. So we actually did a project using an external company to try and cost what that was. And with that, we couldn't actually figure out the definitive number, but we knew that it was in the hundreds of millions of dollars. So my job was to create a solution to those people who were leaving and costing the company, all those millions. So fast forward 2 years later, I did that. It was implemented and the CEO congratulated me and he said, thank you, you've changed the game at NAB. And after that, I realized that I didn't want to be putting all of my efforts and everything that I could achieve into a company that makes billion-dollar profits. And I realized that I wanted to make more of an impact with small business. So naively left and set up a consulting business, mainly in the HR space, because I thought that was the easiest thing to do. fell back into technology again, because everything I've done has been about the human experience. So it's touched on, engagement, experience, goodwill, the way that someone perceives things, the way they experience it, what they get, how they feel, and, how that process is delivered. So that's effectively what I did in the corporate world, and then went out on my own around 14 years ago and did a lot of work for companies then, or smaller businesses, in, funnily enough, marketing automation. Because if you take an employee experience down to the size of a micro business or a small business, that effectively is marketing, or it's the customer journey rather than the employee journey. And I didn't realize I was doing it on a small scale, but I was. A number of years back, I then grew my business. We had a business partner. We ran a digital marketing agency, which I was just very bored with after a couple of years, and the kind of work and the perception the market has of you when you're a digital marketing agency. And I wasn't actually doing anything on the human side. People would come to us and want websites and funnels and, lead magnets and ways to increase their lead generation. And they wanted, cheesy copywriting and, tech setups. And we did it all, but it was really empty because it didn't mean a lot. Just before COVID hit, my business partner decided to leave. And then when COVID hit, it was an opportunity for me to strip back, relook at things. And I was going through a business school at the time, and I was able to work on my business and step back from it, and I got some great perspective and realized that I could change my business model and actually focus more back on that customer experience rather than selling a marketing tactic. So that's kind of the work journey that I've been on that's brought me to where I am today.
Aveline, how important was it for you to go through your corporate gig? So was it helpful? Was it actually blocking you before you stepped into the entrepreneurship of adventure?
I would say that, well, it certainly shaped me. It gave me a lot of experiences that if I'd gone straight into small business, I wouldn't have had. I had to learn how to survive in a very politically dangerous environment where, because of the nature of the changes that I was making, it meant that I was the target of ridicule. I was the target of attacks, people's own ego deflationary moments then being flipped around and being, targeted at me. I had very senior executives scream at me and belittle me, like all of these things, because I was trying to create change. So those experiences, whilst they were really difficult at the time, they showed me the depths and the breadth of the human psyche and behaviors and how people feel and what they'll do to make themselves look good. Was it required mandatory? Well, it wasn't mandatory for me to be able to be where I am today. However, it certainly toughened me up and made me realize that nothing was going to ever faze me. And being able to speak to people at any level of an organization, like when I worked at Australia Post, I trained all of their executives and middle managers on salary bonus and performance management. I was on first name basis with all of them, including the MD. He'd come into my office and tell me dirty jokes every day. I mean, not every day, but some days, and I learnt that people are just people regardless of their title. And that was a really important learning for me. And I'm very grateful for that.
I think it's so interesting hearing about the original, the core story of where people come from, and that, as you say, so many of us have come from corporate, but then now you're doing the 6-star business journey and community and podcast. How do you feel that the work you've done, with the work from your past has influenced the 6-star business and what you're doing with that, because I think it's fascinating to hear.
Absolutely directly related. Like, it's influenced in a big way. If I didn't have the autonomy and the scope to run the projects I did, first of all at Australia Post, and make the changes I did, literally greenfields projects, things that nobody had ever done before. I brought salary sacrifice for mobile phones and laptops into Australia Post, and I pitched it to the board and they agreed, and then I put everything online so that it was all through the intranet. That's just one little example, but creating something new and teaching people and giving people a new way to experience things in their daily lives was big, because when you go to make change, you come up against people that don't like change. And I learned how to get people across an organization as stuck and as old school as Australia Post to embrace change. So for me to do that meant that, like, I felt that I could achieve change anywhere because I'd succeeded at Post, because their workplace was largely made up of people that were lifetimers. They were there for their super package because the super fund was so good, and they just never changed jobs, and they were there for their whole careers, and they just did the same thing every day. And with NAB, that was just on another level, really, of creating something new. And I think what I'm doing with 6-star now, every day it's challenging because I am doing something new. So there's existing, it's new. Other people have a podcast, yes. But 6-star in itself is new. The concept and what it's evolved to in the last 12 months is very different from where it started 18 months ago or more. I was looking at some old notes the other day of when I started 6-star with my former partner, and the things that I was saying about 6-star are completely different. It was all about ratings and, how someone experiences it, and getting 5-star reviews versus 6-star reviews. And it's a completely different ethos to what 6-star is today. So everything that I've done in my past directly relates to my ability to bring something new into this world today.
Well, we have to ask, what does being 6-star mean to you now? Because obviously things have changed and you've developed your thinking. What does it mean now?
Such a good question. I think I answer this differently depending on what time of day I'm asked and when I'm thinking about it. In summary, I think being 6-star is about being the best version of yourself. And that inherently means being sovereign, being your own unique self, owning who that is, and being willing to express that through your daily actions and also through your business. And that means, so you think about that and you might go, oh yeah, well that's easy. Yeah, I'm myself every day. Well, really? Are you? Have you created your business based on who you really are? Or have you created a business based on a skill or a trade, and then based it off of your competition and what you think that others want, or what people you think people perceive you as? Because that, to me, is the way most people build their businesses and then operate their businesses and market themselves. So 6-star is about being yourself, which means being willing to be different from others and just honoring that and owning it, and and therefore allowing your creative self to come forth as you evolve your business and how you serve the world.
So that means actually to be 6-star, you need to tap into your genius, right?
Yeah.
To figure out who you are, which means that you would do things differently than anybody else around you because you're unique in what you do. How does that correlate with purpose? Is that actually then finding out what your purpose is?
Yeah.
Not only in business, but also private?
Clarity is power, because when you have clarity, it's also peace. when someone taps into who they really are, and they figure out, they know that they identify or acknowledge their genius, and then they do the work to peel back the layers, that introspective questioning and allowing themselves to come forth to say, well, this is what pulls me forward. This is what gives me meaning in the world. And there, the intersection of that is where the purpose lies. And it's really important to figure that out, because if you don't, what have you got to guide you apart from the promise of money, maybe a result to compare to your competitors? It's very empty. And after a period of time, I know people listening to this who haven't figured out their purpose or have been driven by money or a number or a result or the accolades of getting to a certain point would be nodding their heads, and they'd understand the emptiness that goes with that, because you might reach that number and then what? What does it make you? It doesn't make you feel any better. It's actually very, very unsatisfactory, because there's no meaning attached to that.
So, coming back to what you just said, once you achieved your goal and what is next, so what is the most meaningful thing you envision for Six Star and your own life? Because it's connected tightly with each other.
Yeah.
Now, what is
See, my personal purpose, again, the words can change depending on the day, but it's about improving people's lives. Right? That's what I'm here to do. And Six Star does that through facilitating, leading, and helping people to become the best versions of themselves, their core selves, their true selves, their unique genius selves, and bringing their expression of themselves into their work, through their business, into the world. And in terms of, I just want to answer the other part of Koray's question. My vision for Six Star is for me to create such an impact that business owners and people that come through Six Star, whether they're business owners or employees at a senior level, or people who are running businesses, they have a sense of freedom and clarity in what they do, and therefore can make the changes they need to make within themselves and their business, because that in turn creates the greatest amount of impact on themselves, and then their ecosystem, which is their staff, their customers, and their communities. And in that vision, there's no competition. And this is why I, will call myself a marketer, I don't believe in competition. There is none.
Neither me.
And, I used to do a lot of competitive research in my early solo business days, and be very proud of that, because I so enjoy looking at data, and I don't do it anymore, because to me, it actually means nothing, because it's all about the person. You don't do business with numbers, you do business with people.
I think that's one of the things I love most about Six Star is to be Six Star is about putting the people into the business and making the people love the people within the business. And I think that's, the community we've got and the ethos and what you're creating is all about the people, as you say. But I think from that, I think you're talking about getting business leaders thinking that way. But how difficult do you think it is for us to be Six Star in today's world? Because I think it's great having the ethos and the vision and the hope, but actually, how hard is it, or easy is it?
I think it comes down to where someone is at in their own journey. And from my experience, I guess over the last 14 years and working with so many businesses, and then in the last 18 months being on the podcast and talking to 150, close to 160 people on the podcast, I've come to realize that people might want to be 6-star, but there's typically something that's happened to them that's got them to a place where they realize that there's got to be more to life than just money. Their businesses, that they might be happy in their business but stuck, and they typically have a level of self-awareness that it's not just about money, and they want more meaning. They want more of that. Now, our society is built on a lot of failed structures that don't work. You know, we look at all the systems that our world is based on, and you can even just look at the history of business and how business actually started. And it started because there was a need in a community, and then the business started to serve that need. And then you look at the impact of the Industrial Revolution and what that's done to business, and, you know, this massive explosion, you know, and you look at the big corporates and you look at the Amazons of the world. Don't get me wrong, we all love Amazon, don't we? Because it makes life so easy for us to get things quickly and efficiently and cheaply. Yet let's bring it back down to what business is really about and our communities. And if our mindsets are still attached to the structures and the systems that are at play, and we haven't had an experience to shake us out of that or show us that those systems don't work, then that person is not going to be looking for 6-star, because to them it's the old school mentality. It's the ego. It's the competition. It's the, I want to make the money, and that real masculine testosterone-filled drive and competition to beat the other person, because that's the world that I grew up in, and that's the business world that I was exposed to when I went into business. I do believe that is changing, and I believe from what I've seen, there's an organic, widespread movement of people that want change. They want to do things differently. They don't like the old ways of doing business, and they just don't know how to do it differently. They're searching for something more meaningful, whether it's a tribe, whether it's an ethos, it's a framework, all of the above. You know, and is it hard to make the change? Well, I'll say yes, but only to those that aren't ready. So for those that are ready for the change, then I'd say no, it's not.
It's a pretty interesting topic, actually, you brought up with the corporates, and because everybody nowadays talks about sustainability, and looking to corporates, what they do is actually against sustainability so far, and everybody is wishing for having a sustainable economy. And coming back to what you said, helping business owners to become their best version ever. And within the community, where community takes care of people, so literally also of the businesses and vice versa. I think this is for me the ultimate prototype, which we used to have 200 years ago prior to industrialization. That this is for me the quintessence of sustainable economy. Because you're giving into economy, you're taking from economy, from community, but it all remains within the community. So looking to what happens with the big corporate tech is we're giving the money to the big tech, who are pleasing and sending dividends to the shareholders, but nothing comes back. To make it worse, they start laying off people, thousands, 10,000 people. So there is no balance. The balance is totally lost anymore. And I think what you're aiming for with 6-star Business is bringing back the balance and the harmony, to people, making people aware of it's not about just me. It's not a me culture. It's a we culture. We are there for each other. We benefit from each other and we take care of each other. And this in a life cycle, in a circular way. And I think that's also the ultimate reason why the corporates are going to struggle, regardless of whatever their sustainability agenda looks like, because they're not primed to do that. Their only goal is profit maximization.
You raised a really good point, and I'm really glad you did. Corporates are the epitome of the example of being in isolation and playing that competitive, dog eat dog world, the one-upmanship, you can see it, and it's just like, I'm bigger than you, no, I'm bigger, no, I'm stronger, no, I am. And this is the business world that we exist in, and this is the world that I think many people have said, nah, don't want to do it this way. We are a part of nature. Now, I'm going to go a little bit like out there for some people, but you might have heard, there are scientists that talk about this. There are philosophers that talk about this. Human beings are part of nature. We actually live symbiotically with nature, and we are reflections of nature. And if you look at what happens in nature, they are not in isolation. There's an ecosystem, and there's also times of day. There's different seasons. Human beings are not robots, funnily enough. The big corporate is a reflection of a robot, literally, as a metaphorically speaking. And their goal is to create a system that has no leaks, no breakdowns, no faults, like a robot. But that doesn't exist because it's full of humans. What I envisage in this future, and certainly in Six Star, is an embracing of humanity to the point that we embrace people as those that need the collective hub of people around us. We need to be in community in this collective. We need to honor the collective instead of seeing ourselves as these solitary, robots or driven people to only talk if we're actually trying to sell something or if we're in competition. So imagine if we actually existed harmoniously in nature, like nature does in the collective, and we collaborated like nature does. And we realize that we're all different and we all have ways to help each other. And also that we are not programmed physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically to be robots, to wake up at the same time every day, to work the same hours every day, to have the same amount of output and input at the same energy level, with the same results. That is not physically, humanly possible. We're humans. We have energy levels that go up and down. We have different things that go on around us. We all have in different environments. So acknowledging all of those parts of ourselves and embracing this a far more holistic view of humanness in our business is what I really want to see moving forward. We don't have to sit at our desk for a required set number of hours a day like the industrial workers do, the clocking in, clocking out, sitting at the desk and making what it is that they had to do and, deliver on their outputs and then leave. That's not natural, and that's not us, and that's not the way of the future. I feel that people are craving connection, they're craving understanding, and they're craving purpose and meaning. And that's what Six Star is creating and offering business owners moving forward.
I think that's beautiful. And it's so exciting to be kind of talking to you about this and being part of that community. How do you feel that what you're doing and the Six Star movement, can you tell us a bit about the Six Star movement and what you're hoping to achieve with the Six Star business platform community future? What does that look like for you and for the community?
Well, I can't let all the secrets out onto the table, but what I'll do is I'll explain a little bit of the vision and where we are. So the movement has been around for, I guess, a little over a year. We got together, like my former partner and I, we started the podcast then we decided we'd publish a book, how to be a 6-star business. And that's how you and I met, which was great. And there was amazing people that contributed to that book. Then we realized there were people that wanted to connect, and we created this community without any structure or real kind of forward vision. Then my partner left, and since then it's just taken a life of its own, and I've just been stewarding this vision. And the last 6 months have largely been about incubating the concept, the ethos, and allowing events to unfold. We've been practicing some things, like looking at different types of events, doing some things in the community and then publicly as well. And now we've got a really great data set to understand what's working, what people are asking for, what hasn't worked. And we now understand different people's contributions and what we can actually create from all of this. And it's not like anything I created back in the corporate world. However, the process to do it is similar from a process perspective. And what I'm looking at is first of all, launching a community. We have a community, but it's private at the moment. And in the new year, we'll be launching this community that offers a place for business owners to connect. And it's about connection. So unlike a networking group where you go and then you just get sold to and you just feel like you're covered in slime when you leave, and, it's really the same experience every time. This is actually about connecting and getting to know people based on who they are. Like, go figure. Imagine being in a place where people welcome you and actually wanted to know about who you were, like, rather than, well, what do you do? So we want to be feel like we're understood and valued. And you don't feel understood and valued if the first question out of someone's mouth is, so tell us what you do. It's doing things differently. And my vision for this is to create a wonderful platform of people from all over the world to connect. We'll have different types of events, like connection experiences, and we'll run public events probably every couple of months. We'll see how that goes. We'll do the first one in February, and the last two we did a couple of weeks ago were really successful, and it showed us that we have a lot of people that want this type of connection. We'll also be rolling out a program effectively. So it's one thing to have a community and create the space for people to connect, but we want people to experience what it means to be 6-star, like what I'm talking about. And that can only come about through a process, I believe, of absorbing information, being in community, like in a small group where you're actually talking with, connecting with other people as you're learning together, kind of like maybe even a mentoring, quasi-coaching, little group where you can bounce things off and you actually get to sense who you are in relationship to each other. So we're in the process of building that, and we'll be rolling this out in the new year, giving people a pathway to work on the different elements of their business around, purpose and impact and people. It's not traditional business coaching or anything like that. And it's not about, dissecting a business up with a cookie cutter approach to say, right, your business is made up of all these areas and let's fix it. It's not that at all. It's a completely different way of looking at business, and that comes through the mindset first. So imagine it as a new lens, and we want to be able to embody that and experience that in the community every day. So there is a core team around me, of which you're part of and Koray is part of, and there's some amazing people in that core team, and together we've been putting ideas into the pot, and there's now a beautiful kind of symmetry and organization of all those ideas, the genius, and the magic that's happened over this period of time, which couldn't have happened just with me on my own. So we are an example of what happens when you get people together who are not, I'll say, who are on the same page, who want to be together, who are aligned in values and purpose, and then magic happens.
Thanks for sharing the vision, which is pretty structured, clear going forward. Since you know and have a clear understanding of the vision, what you're aiming for, and looking to where we are today, where do you see the biggest challenge for the accomplishments we are going to deliver over time in the near future?
Someone asked me what the biggest challenges were about this, and my answer was me. And I sort of say that laughingly because I have a tendency to be able to see the whole picture, and when I have the vision, I know exactly how to bring that to life, and I have a tendency to just go and do it all myself and build it myself, and that's really not possible with something this big and with the group that we have. So I have to learn how to bring this to life in a different way so that I don't cause any roadblocks or challenges, and I'm fully open to that. So this is as much about me doing something differently to what I'm used to as well. Because in the past, I built all that stuff myself. Yes, I had a team, a few people working for me at NAB in the corporate world when I did those big projects, but largely I was a solo warrioress, and now I have to embody the doing it differently.
It's being 6-star and believing in the people around you and that trust. And I think it is probably one of the hardest parts of being a business owner is actually trusting that other people can work with you to make things happen. And it is, I think you're not alone in your challenge. I think we all probably feel that, and it's scary to think of. Well, it's absolutely essential we have each other, but it's also quite scary working with other people as well, if we're being really honest about it. But I suppose I talk for myself as well. It's about having that belief in the people and the wonderful people you surround yourself with. But of course, it's really important to get the right people around. But because that's a really hard part of it. But
I want to add to that, Remeny. This goes back to the question that Koray asked earlier about how important is it to understand yourself and your purpose. Now, if you don't do the work to understand who you really are and what your purpose is, it's going to be really hard to find the right people to be around you, because your magnetizing and your filtering is going to be off. Once you've figured out your purpose and you know who you are, that purpose is your guiding light. It is the thing that will attract the right people to you. If you speak about it and you talk and live it and breathe it, you will bring the people like you towards you.
Yes, and values as well, alongside and understanding your values. What are the values of the 6-star business community? I imagine they're the same as yours, but just interested.
I think that's an exercise that the team probably needs to do. I have a set of values, like there's the values that we live and breathe, the fun, the integrity, the connection, the openness, the friendship, and the continuous improvement. They're the ones that are solid for me, that I can just roll off my tongue. But again, it's probably an exercise that we need to do as a group, as a team, to be all on the same page so that we've got that collective input.
Yes, that collaboration with trust and humanity.
Yes. Yeah.
It's really important. And the other thing, of course, is we talk about people, and we've got the core team, but we're in the future. If people are listening, how do people know that maybe they should be thinking about getting involved in the future? Who are the right people? Are the right people? Is there an ideal 6-star business person that, that's probably a really horrible question, but
No, it's a great question. For someone who is listening to this and they're wondering, well, is 6-star for me? Well, are you satisfied with the people that you've got around you at the moment? Do you feel like you've got collaborative partners who aren't just trying to make a buck off you? Do you turn up to networking groups or business groups and still don't feel actually very understood or that you've got any friends? And if you answer all those and you realize that, you're pretty much doing things on your own, then, and you're not feeling satisfied, then you do need 6-star.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's it in a nutshell. And then there's those that have already acknowledged that, who are at the next level, which is they actually want to do things differently. And they've been trying to do things differently on their own for a while, haven't really known how to do it, haven't found the right partners to collaborate with. They're a little bit frustrated, and maybe they've fallen out of love and out of passion with their business as well.
We keep talking about doing things differently. What is the desired outcome of that? Is it bringing more meaning to your life? Is it because doing something differently means you're putting yourself aside from something, and we're talking about collaboration, community. How does that fit together with doing things differently?
So when I say doing things differently, I'm talking about going against the status quo. In other words, not going along with the status quo for the sake of being part of the status quo. When you have identified who you really are and your purpose and the impact you want to make or the meaning that you want to get from the business, then that often requires, and it will require you to do things differently, which means not doing things the same as you did before, or the same as your neighbor, or the same as your competitors, or the same as, fill in the blank.
Okay.
We've all heard the line that if you keep doing the same thing, you'll keep getting the same results. So you've got to do things differently anyway to get a different result. But this goes beyond that. It's not just about the actions you take. It's about approaching business in a different way. I realize that I've brought up a lot of concepts so far that might be still spinning in people's minds. Like, what is she talking about nature for? Well, I could start talking about feminine energy and that might put some people off. But really, we're in a symbiotic relationship energetically with masculine and feminine. And business has largely been a masculine pursuit. And yet, guess what? The largest growing percentage of business owners in Australia for the last 15 years has been women. As in, more women are starting businesses than men and have done for the last 15 years. And that's probably true, across the world. So what women bring is a very different energy, and it's an energy of flow. And yes, I'm going to talk soft concepts now. So one of our wonderful 6-star core team members was talking to me one day, and she teaches consciousness, which again is sometimes difficult for people to understand because it's consciousness in business. And that's about mindfulness and awareness. And this, it's big, but it's really powerful. Anyway, in this conversation, I was chatting about something, and she said, Aveline, you've just got to be the river. I went, explain that to me, unpack it for me. And she said, well, when you go through life, think about this, life is not a straight line. And the river is full of energy, and the river flows in a certain direction, and it's twisty and turny. And that's just like life. And imagine you're in the river and the water's taking you along. And when you resist the push of the water and you hold on to something and you try and stop, or you want to go across the river against the current sideways, or you want to go back, how does it feel? Oh, it feels pretty hard. Right. So is it really difficult? Yep. And that's where you get frustrated. Yep, that's probably right. Okay. So try this on. Just let go and just be the river. Allow yourself to just flow with the energy of the water and where it takes you. The moment you resist and try and make life or your direction go a slightly different direction to the way that it's carrying you, you're going to find resistance, and that's going to feel hard. And that's where life gets hard. And then, we get into our minds, and we have all these things happen to us, and we get frustrated and down, and, failed expectations and all those kinds of things. That's called resistance. So her message was, be the river. Now, how can we be the river if in our businesses we are holding on to these very strict ideas and frameworks and structures of how business should be done? If I said to the team, right, by the 1st of November 2022, we're going to have a fully fledged, we're going to have everything done, the community is going to be launched, we're going to have the program ready, I want to have everyone with this, and this ready by October. Could you imagine? Like, that's what I mean by the rigid, strict structure. That's how I ran my projects in the corporate world. And you know what someone said to me in a 360-degree feedback review that the company ran at NAB? This is an aside, but this shows you the analogy I'm making and the comparison to who I was to who I am today. In those 360-degree feedback things, they get your colleagues to write about you and mark you on the thing as well as your manager. One of my colleagues called me a bulldozer. She gets things done to the point she's actually a bulldozer. And I read that and went, huh? No, I'm a really nice, sweet person. How could you think that? But then the next colleague gave their review, and the next one, and then the manager. And I was like, okay, so they all see me as this really hard, rigid, powerful person that gets stuff done. And that's how I succeeded in the corporate world, because it worked. But did it really work? So I had no idea what the river was back then, because all I knew was that I had to wear pants, battle egos, and, step over toes, piss people off, and somehow I got the stuff done. In Six Star world, in my world today, I want to be the river. And I couldn't set those deadlines for Six Star to be ready by a certain time, because it wasn't the right time. And I had to allow the flow to happen. And there'll be people listening to this that might go, huh? But I know that there are people listening that will understand this. Sometimes it's just not the right time. And you can't explain it. You just realize things happen out of left field, or something is going on, or people are sick, or, something else comes in, because that particular idea that's in incubation stage is not ready to be birthed yet. It needs time. And so I've just allowed that to unfold naturally. And I'm learning every day to be more like the river.
I love that so much. For me, I think it's one of the things that I love about the Six Star community and the people in it, and what I'm excited about the future is exactly that, the river, and the people that are in the river with us, and the people who kind of hold us up. And, we won't drown, we're together. And we know, for me, it's really important that people are really honest and upfront and happy to be challenging and push me sometimes, and because it makes me feel safe, because I know I won't drown, because I'm going to be taking the right steps. And I think for me, that's the core of what Six Star is like I said before, is the people. And you've been saying all through this, it's the people, and it's that safety of knowing that you've got people there to help you and trust you. And I think the Six Star ethos is very aligned with that. And I think what you said about the river is beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think you also answered the question in a way to my question of what does it mean to do things differently? By literally, this is not something you're aiming for. This is actually the outcome, the logical outcome when you tap into your own genius and potential and stop comparing yourself to others and listening to what your gut feeling is telling you and tuning into yourself. Yeah. And then just do what you're supposed to do. And that puts you already apart by doing the things your way. Yeah. It's
That's
nobody else's way. It's your way, a unique way of doing things, talking, connecting, interacting, whatever. And that's
You got it. That's exactly it.
Doing differently things.
Yeah.
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 And by becoming yourself, you actually become your own river because you're in your flow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Lovely. I like that.
So I guess, one of the probably last questions would be around sort of next steps. What should our listeners be listening out for the future of Six Star, and when should, obviously going with the flow, but what should we be listening out for next?
Sure. So we are talking about having an event in February, and this will be an event just before we launch the community and open the doors to new people, which will be exciting because we'll have new experiences. And I'm looking forward to seeing people from across the globe. We have people in our core team that are in the UK, in Europe, in America, and in Australia, and New Zealand as well. And so imagine more of those people coming in, which will be very exciting. And from there, I'm not sure exactly when, but after we open the community, we'll be able to launch our program, which will be another level of experience that people can partake in, which is the Six Star way, and learning the Six Star way.
I didn't realize that we're that international, really.
Yeah.
So talking about being international, so with whom are we starting? Which country? Is it an international thing? Are we going to focus on a specific region? Is there anything?
We're open. Anyone can join.
Okay.
Anyone can join. Yes.
The borders are open.
The borders
are open.
And where should people be looking out for this next event and the next steps?
These are great questions. We don't have a website yet. It's in concept stage. So we have we've got a LinkedIn page, a Facebook page that we do put stuff on, but mainly everything will be on LinkedIn. So when we have the events ready, we'll have those on LinkedIn and promoted, and all of the core team, so yourself and Koray and the others and myself, will all put posts up on our LinkedIns. So if people listening that know one of us, or just by all means just go onto the Six Star Business LinkedIn page, and the events will be there in early Feb.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners before we start wrapping up?
I just want to thank you guys for being kind to me. I was quite nervous at the beginning of this, and because I'm so used to, holding the microphone.
Us as well.
Thank you. Oh, good. I wasn't alone.
Didn't know what you'd be saying.
No. And I guess that's one of the things that I want to leave listeners with, is that even when you feel uncomfortable or there's a new concept and you're like, oh, that just pushes against my internal boundaries, or it's taking you out of your comfort zone, don't be afraid. Like I got through this. My normal comfort zone is to be the host. And now I've just been asked a whole lot of questions, and I had to talk for most of this time, and I'm not used to that. So, but it's helping me grow as a human. And it's only when we actually embrace and accept that outer edge of our comfort zone that we do actually grow and become a better, bigger, shinier version of ourselves.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ab. That was brilliant. Really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.